Hello and welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast. I'm so excited that you're here today because we get a lot of questions about how to grow a business where we teach more private yoga, where we teach more one-on-one yoga, and we have previous episodes on this exact topic, but we can always cover a little bit more because oftentimes this is not covered in a yoga teacher training. Your average yoga teacher training is not usually setting you up to teach one-on-one, which is interesting because if you work in the many other professions that involve movement and education about the body and the nervous system, so let's say we compare this to physiotherapy or physical therapy, as you call it if you're in the US. Physical therapists, physiotherapists are taught in school how to work one-on-one with people. And so it's interesting that yoga flips this around and we learn more on how to teach a group, which honestly can be harder. If you think about it, everyone has different stuff going on. So do not be afraid to dive into teaching private yoga. It is something that anyone can do with a basic 200-hour yoga teacher training. And we've got you covered in terms of learning how to book more people, grow this business, and that is why I'm excited that you get to hear today's call with Dominique. Now, the calls that we've done before on this, I'll make sure to link to those. So we had Megan Spears here on the podcast talking about how to get more private yoga clients. I did a consultation call a while back with Amanda where we talked about marketing and increasing those private bookings. I broke down how I structure private yoga sessions because many people were asking me. We also have episodes on making a profit or teaching private yoga online or how to really set things up to teach private yoga. Or way back in episode 14, oh my gosh, we talked with Kate about building your private yoga business. Now, some things have changed, but you can learn from all of these episodes. So have a listen to today's episode. And if you have more questions about teaching private yoga, go back and have a listen to those previous episodes as well. Also, I want to tell you about the most recent one that we did with Mary. Back in episode 363, Mary talked to us about building a full-time yoga career. This is a really inspiring episode. And also, Mary was our guest inside of our Pelvic Health Professionals membership. And I have a coupon code for you if you want to check that out. So the coupon code is Connected2024. And in order to use that, you'd head on over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com, click on the join for 1 month, join our membership for 1 month, and use the coupon code Connected2024. Those are the resources we have for you. I think with all of that and today's call, you are going to be more and more set up to teach one-on-one yoga. If you have questions beyond this, or maybe we forgot something, if you teach one-on-one yoga and you've built a really thriving business, let us know and we can talk to you. It's always inspiring to listen to other yoga teachers about how they've set their business up. So today we get to hear from Dominique Gauthier about how she built her own private yoga business. But before we get right into that, I feel like I'm skipping ahead and just wanting to get right into the content. Let me introduce myself and the podcast in case you're new here. I'm your host, Shannon Crow. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and this podcast is being recorded on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people. It's the Odawa and Mississauga people that were here long before my settler ancestors. As I'm recording this, we're just ending Earth Month, and we recently had Earth Day in April. But I think that each and every day needs to be looked at like Earth Day. I think more and more we're seeing how when we're connected to the earth and the people who are caring for it, or to the people who cared for it long before we were here, I think that's a really important practice. It is for me anyway in my day-to-day life, really learning from nature. And if you like to get out in nature, connect with me over on Instagram. I like to share my walks. I've had some fun questions and comments Where I am, we just had a bit of snow on the 24th of April. And that's what life is like where I live up here in Canada. So I'm a Canadian yoga teacher, a mom of 3, an entrepreneur, and a forever student who really likes to ask questions. And I think that's why podcasting feels like a good fit. We get to hang out and I can ask a whole pile of questions to amazing yoga teachers and professionals from around the world, and we get to learn together. It's a really fun way to connect. And this podcast was made with you in mind, the yoga teacher. I remember how it felt to leave yoga teacher training and just feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing now? Not only do I need to look at running a business and all of the things that go into that, but also keeping up with learning about yoga because, as we know, it's a lifelong study. So I wanted you to have a place where you could connect to other yoga teachers, ideas, and information. And the main thing is that I want you as the yoga teacher to feel supported as you do this amazing, important work in the world. Returning listeners, thank you for hanging out again and being here. Your support means so much. Speaking of support, today's episode is powered by OfferingTree. I use and love this software in my own business because of how it automates and simplifies so much. From bookings, payments, Zoom links, reminders, this is the thing that keeps me organized in my business. And we have a special discount code for you because you're a podcast listener. That's over at OfferingTree.com/Shannon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Pelvic Health Professionals. Some of you know that I'm super passionate about connecting pelvic health education and yoga, and all of the things of yoga really help to benefit our pelvic health. So that's the work that I do over in our Pelvic Health Professionals membership. And I'm really excited because we've added an element to this membership that's going over so well. It's yoga. So for a long time, we were really focused on the education of pelvic health. And now we're starting to bring in practice with that. So you can do yoga with teachers who specialize in pelvic health. You can do it live when we have live classes, and you can also catch all of the replays of all of the yoga series that we've done so far. And we still kept the calls with pelvic health experts. I'll tell you later on today a couple of those calls that are coming up in May and June. Very excited about those. I actually just got confirmation today about our June booking. And you also get access to all of the trainings, workshops, and past calls that we've done. And because you are a podcast listener, we're giving you a free month of access. So you can check it out. Head over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com and use the code CONNECTED2024 when you join. That's pelvichealthprofessionals.com, and the coupon is CONNECTED2024. Okay. I know that you are likely eager to dive in so that you can learn more about how to grow a private yoga business. So let's get right into it. Dominique Gauthier has been on the podcast before in episode 205, where she really broke down the tech for teaching online yoga. And that's a great episode if you're like, how do I teach online? And not only does Dominique teach online, she teaches both online and in person at the same time, which is amazing. I have known Dominique since I feel like early days of this podcast and having our Facebook group for yoga teachers. Actually, I don't know how long I've known Dominique. It's been years. And I've kept in touch with her. She's also a fellow pelvic health professional. And I've watched how she's really shifted and changed things, really grown this amazing private yoga business. And that's why I thought she is going to be the perfect guest to talk about this topic. If you don't already know Dominique, she's a highly skilled and passionate yoga teacher, personal trainer, core and pelvic floor specialist. She's the owner of Body Mind Fitness, which is based in London, Ontario. Dominique is dedicated to helping clients of all ages and fitness levels to achieve their health and wellness goals. She has a comprehensive approach to fitness that focuses on building strength, increasing flexibility, and improving overall health and well-being. Where Dominique and I really connect is she does a lot of education around common pelvic floor issues, all the things about core and talking about the core. She talks openly and very frankly and very educated about incontinence, diastasis recti, pelvic organ prolapse, and pelvic girdle pain. Dominique works with clients in person at her studio, as well as in virtual private sessions and personalized small group classes for clients all over the world. In today's conversation, you're going to hear Dominique explain how she's able to make a living teaching yoga. The whole career that she has is all about teaching yoga. So this is another thing that I get asked about a lot is it possible as a yoga teacher to make a sustainable living only teaching yoga and not having a second or third job? And yes, it is. In this episode today, Dominique shares how she advertises online to get new students, what her schedule is like, and how she teaches both in-person and online private yoga. I loved how honest and open Dominique was in this interview, sharing all of the tips and ideas so that you can take this and use it in your own yoga business. Welcome to the Connected Yoga Teacher Podcast, Dominique. It's so great to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am excited that we get to dive in and talk about making a living as a yoga teacher, teaching one-on-one yoga, because this is a question that came up in the Connected Yoga Teacher Facebook group, and you commented, and I was super excited because I already know you. Have we met in person? I don't think so.
No, we haven't. We were going to right before COVID happened it was one of the yoga teacher conferences, but we all know how that went.
Not wow. Okay, so we've never met in person. It feels like we have. That's why I paused. We've had you on the podcast before talking about all of the tech because you figured things out really fast. So we'll link to that. Tell us we have the bio of you there and the introduction of you there, but tell us what's the work that you're doing right now and who are you doing it for?
So I'm definitely constantly revamping things, but my focus has still and possibly always will be helping women deal with pelvic floor concerns. But I'm also really gravitated towards helping people who are just starting their own movement and yoga and fitness journey as well. I find that I was one of those people. I didn't enter the movement sphere until my mid to late 20s. And I didn't grow up playing sports. I was the girl sitting on the sideline going, I have period cramps. Sorry, I can't be there. And it was a little too often, obviously. And I just really wasn't into the sport thing. And I think especially in elementary school, high school, that's the main focus of movement. And it wasn't until I was in my mid to late 20s that I kind of stumbled into the gym. I always say that yoga wasn't love at first sight for me. I think I hear that a lot with teachers at the first class they took. They absolutely loved it. For me, it was about sixth attempt in 5 years is when I finally kind of landed on a type of yoga that I liked. And from the very first class, I felt so amazing. And I was like, I want to share this with people. And then I thought to myself, girl, you got 51% in grade 9 gym class. What are you thinking? So being that kind of person that can really bring people who are hesitant like that, who aren't sure where to start, how to move their bodies, or even feeling things within their bodies. A lot of body awareness piece comes into my work a lot as well. And this really all started stemming from pelvic health. And it's kind of taken me in this new direction because that seems to be what a lot of people are coming to me for. And it might be because I am very open with my story about how I was not the athletic type growing up. That was not my jam. And I think people really resonated with that. So it's kind of a twofold thing at this point in my career where I'm really, really loving working with newcomers as well as still helping people with those pelvic floor concerns.
I love this. I love how you sharing that story is also bringing those people to you. That really illustrates that, um, like we may have this niche in mind, and then we meet lots of people along the way. I know when I worked at the physio office and I specialized in yoga for pelvic health there, most often I was working with people who had not attended a yoga class or done yoga before, or maybe they'd done a video, but they were not people who knew much about yoga. So let's talk about teaching. So are you mostly teaching one-on-one yoga right now?
Yeah, that's my main source of income. I do have about, say, 1, 2, 5 classes on the schedule at this point. So I've really pared things down, especially since COVID. I let go of a lot of things that I just wasn't passionate about. It was a really hard decision to make, but it opened up more space and more capacity, not just in my schedule, but in myself as a person to be able to start to take on more of those one-to-one clients. And people were really craving that, I feel like, after COVID for a variety of different reasons. I feel like just even watching my husband, who he has a very sedentary lifestyle, he does web developing as a career. And he was talking about all the aches and pains. And I think, especially with those aches and pains coming up with people who work office jobs at home in possibly not the best situation, not the best chairs, not the best setup at home, there was more and more of those aches and pains. And people were feeling anxious about coming into a yoga class, feeling like they might not be able to do that. So maybe it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. Not that I want anybody to ever be in pain, but it did really start to allow my one-to-one practice or my one-to-one business to really take off. Was shortly after we all started returning back to life as we previously knew it.
Right. Was there anything that you did then to build those one-on-one spaces? Like you said that you cut things back in your classes. Can you talk about the time of like, okay, I'm going to teach less group, more one-on-one. Here's how I'll tell people and here's how I'll market it. Like what were some of the things that helped?
One of the things that I did was I started to revamp my one-to-one page. So it is a combination of one-to-one yoga and personal training. And I really wanted to kind of showcase that it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't need to be fancy pretzel poses. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to be flexible to come into yoga. So I started with that. I really worked with my husband, who is my tech guy, as I've mentioned in my previous podcast as well, to really come up with some keywords that people might be looking up. We took a deep dive into different analytics and seeing what people, especially in this area, were searching for in terms of one-to-one teachers, I would say, one-to-one yoga. And I started trying to place those keywords into my website, my web page as it was. And I also started really using posts on the Google business page. I feel like that's not something I often hear about. I don't know how many people post quite often on Google pages or the Google business page, I should say. And started really just showcasing like, hey, I offer a free 30-minute consultation call. No, you don't have to sign up for anything. It's just a chat. Let's see what your goals are. Let's see if I can help you. And it's not just me kind of interviewing you and seeing how things go. It's also you interviewing me and seeing if we can kind of resonate and gel together. And I think that really kind of opened up a different idea to people. They kind of come into a consultation call, I believe, feeling like they're going to be sold to and feeling like they're on display. Whereas I try to create this environment where I'm just as much on display as you. I'm not going to be the perfect, pardon me. I'm not going to be the perfect person for you necessarily, but I'm also going to help you find somebody that might resonate with you a little bit more. So that's where I started things. And then I went to social media, as many of us do, and started talking a little bit more about the fact that I do one-to-one. I think it was really easy for me to say, I teach group classes. And I talked a lot about that very easily, but I would really shied away from the idea of talking about one-to-one services. And possibly part of that was a little bit of imposter syndrome. Um, but yeah, just kind of starting to really put it out there instead of just saying, oh, I teach classes. But if somebody really wants private yoga, they'll know that they can reach out to me too. And I think that oftentimes we run into a lot of that because I can remember times where I was looking for one-to-one support for a variety of things. And all I was seeing was the group programs. And I didn't even know that person offered one-to-one. So just really putting that on display and saying, yes, I do this as well, really started drawing people in and making use of, at least here in London, Ontario, we have a lot of kind of area Facebook pages. So, and they allow you to advertise on Sundays. Most of them are Sundays. So, really taking advantage of those opportunities and not just saying, hey, I'm selling this thing, but actually starting to post videos of some of the classes that I do through my Facebook group and posting about some of the blogs that I've written about, or even just sharing a social media post that really resonated with a lot of people. Because I find that, especially as an entrepreneur, people want to know who you are as a person. And that way they might trust you versus, say, going to the variety of known places, whether it's Moto Yoga or Good Life Fitness or all of those kind of big box gym places. I find that there is a lot of pressure for us as entrepreneurs to kind of put ourselves out there and show people that this is our personality, this is what we do, and getting people to trust you based on who you are as an individual, not just someone who happens to teach yoga.
I love that you did these consultation calls and also that you looked outside of the normal where can I show up? Like the Google business page, I never hear anyone talking about that. So that's really good. Are you still doing those 30-minute calls with people? Do you still offer that?
Absolutely. I still keep them as part of my regular offerings. And to be honest with you, there's been times where people have come in and just through the conversation, I've told them, I actually think you'd be really suited to this particular class that's on the schedule. And I don't look at it as, oh, I'm just now like taking money out of my pocket and I'm only going to, get this much a week from them instead of what I could have gotten. I try to be really honest and open with people. And even that has come back to me as well, where I have either people who are students here or people who are one-to-one clients here saying, you should really talk to Dominique because she'll just tell you how it is. And she'll tell you if she can help you. She'll tell you if you're better suited to a different class. And if you don't resonate with her, she'll help you find somebody else who might be more suited to whatever situation you're going through right now. And the other thing that I love to do as well is whenever I see somebody either book a consultation call or reach out to me through email to say, hey, do you provide this service? Because sometimes people have seen me posting something, but it might not be one-to-one related. And I always send them a Loom video back. And I get a lot of positive response from that as well. And I try to do it for every single person. Every once in a while, I get quite a few email inquiries for classes and one-to-one and all those things. So I feel like I don't have time to do them all. But for the most part, I try to give them that little, again, that face-to-face, putting a face to a name. And I think it shows that you're going the extra mile for them. And again, that leads to more trust. And I think that kind of sends them this inclination that you are going to work hard for them, because you're already working hard for them when they just emailed them or they just emailed you.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love this so much because so much of what we do as yoga teachers has to do with that relationship and that connection. There's all kinds of science behind this that if you go and meet with your doctor or whoever, your massage therapist, your physio, whoever it is, and if you form that good connection with them, your recovery or whatever you're dealing with, we see more rates of success basically if we have that connection. So I love that you do that right away. Are you teaching online or in person when you teach one-on-one?
I do both. So I do have people who come to me from all over the world, which is kind of an exciting thing. I can call myself a worldwide teacher, or an international teacher, but most of my work is done in person here at my studio.
Yeah. Okay. And so they do this half-hour call with you, or do you see some people just sign up for one-on-one yoga, or are they generally having that chat with you first?
They're generally having the chat with me first. The way I have my scheduling app kind of working for me is that it actually says $0 when it comes to private yoga because I actually charge slightly differently depending on the frequency that I see them. If I'm seeing them less frequent, I want to still provide them with accountability, with support, even in the in between times. So that's going to take more of my time. So those people that I see less frequently pay a little bit more. And the people that see me more frequently, because I have some people that are coming to see me 2 times a week. I don't think anybody yoga wise is seeing me more than 2 times a week. So there's less of that in between that I have to focus on. And that felt like a really good option for me because I find that a lot of places will give you a discount if you buy more packages or more sessions. But the way I see it is, I feel like the people who might need the lower price point are not the people who can afford multiple sessions and potentially hundreds or thousands of dollars spent up front. So I really just take a look at what is the work I'm doing, how much of my time is being spent on this, and then I charge based on that. And also, typically, when people see me, and it will depend. Sometimes I'll find that somebody that I'm working with just needs a little bit of help getting familiar with poses. So I will do a minimum of less sessions, but typically, if we're working on some sort of pain points within the body, it's a minimum of 10 sessions that they sign up for. And then after that, they go into what I call the pay as you go method, where they can buy sessions one off, or most of them continue to buy packages of 5 or 10. But it gives us enough time to really kind of get into the meat of things. And if they feel like they're done after 10, fantastic. I'm glad to have met you. I'll see you later. But if they need a little bit more time, then again, it just becomes a little bit easier for them to manage financially. And that's really important to me because I do see the power in one-to-one work with someone. I've seen it in myself personally. And I feel like that needs to be a little bit more accessible to everyone as a whole. But at the same time, I do have my bills to pay. I have a studio, I have insurance, I have hydro, I have gas, I have all the things, internet, all the things that are just for my yoga business. Because I'm not working out of home, I do have a small brick and mortar studio.
Connected yoga teachers, I'm popping in here quick to tell you how OfferingTree is just the most amazing all-in-one software option, especially if you are teaching private yoga classes online or in person. Your yoga students can easily book a class or series with you online when you use OfferingTree, and you get to set up all the options. Let's say you want to make sure that someone pays before they get to book on your calendar, or maybe you want to set them up with a payment plan. Or maybe you want it so people can book and then pay when they attend class with you live. All of these options are built into OfferingTree. That's why I talk about the software all the time to studios and teachers, because I see how in my own life it makes things easier. And I see yoga teachers using it even beyond what I use it for. I actually know someone who's switching their entire membership over there, and I am seriously considering this with my own membership. So it can definitely grow with you. It can be as simple and as easy as you make it. Well, it does make things easy and simple anyway, but you can also grow with it. Let's say you wanted to add something else or add a retreat or add another offering, you can do that. It will grow with you. When someone signs up for a yoga series with me, they get the Zoom link to attend live, and then I also upload my replay videos to the OfferingTree store so they can access those there as well. Time zones can be a real pain when you're teaching online yoga, but OfferingTree makes it simple and easy. Your students actually get to see the class options in their time zone. So this is why it's so great if you're teaching one-on-one yoga. The other thing I want to tell you as well about, because I just did this, with OfferingTree, you can set up your schedule. So last week, I needed to block off some days. Sean and I are going hiking. And I don't want anyone booking calls or podcast interviews on those days. So it's really easy in OfferingTree to just put the dates and times in when you're going to be away or on holidays, and then it just doesn't show up. No one can book in that time. So if you're looking for something that will give you a great foundation for a website, if you don't have one, emails, bookings, payments, videos for your one-on-one or group classes, check out OfferingTree. We have a 50% discount link for you because you listen to the podcast. So use our coupon code. That's over at offeringtree.com/Shannon. Alrighty, let's get back into today's episode with Dominique. Do you mind me asking, if someone signed up for 10 sessions, one-on-one sessions, what the cost of that is in Canadian dollars?
So the lowest point would be $850 plus HST. And then the highest point would be, I'd have to do the math on that one. So it'd be $1,150.
Okay.
115 times 10? That sounds right.
Right. Yeah. Making you do math.
Oh gosh, I wasn't good at math either.
This is amazing. It's really helpful to know. Also what I'm hearing is there's no magic formula. There wasn't like this, okay, I'm going to push the button now that says I'm teaching one-on-one yoga. There was a lot of work that went into that, and a lot of building your business before that with group classes also. If there's anything that you can think of for the yoga teacher who's thinking, I really want to teach more one-on-one yoga and I want to make this more of my primary income. I want to be able to have this as a career. What would you tell them if they're wondering how to switch to that or start to move more into that?
I think the number one thing would be talk about it. It's not one of those, if you build it, they will come situations. You need to put yourself out there, talk about it, and make it known that you are a private yoga teacher. And it can be subtle things like putting it in your Instagram bio or your signature in your email saying private yoga teacher instead of just yoga teacher, and just starting to plant those seeds. And it does take time. I won't say that it was a quick switch at all. I think even though the timing kind of worked out, that I managed to get some people into the door pretty quickly was awesome. But I think if it were any other time in history where we weren't craving more connection with people and kind of coming out of something that affected us worldwide, like as an entire global community, we were all affected by this very serious thing. And suddenly everyone just wanted to start taking care of themselves more. I think a lot of priorities shifted. I think for many of us, we realized we could live with a little bit less because we were forced to in some situations. People couldn't work. I think we were very fortunate with the supports that we had in Canada. And I know that wasn't the case everywhere, but it really forced us to kind of take a deeper look of how we were living our lives. And people came out of it not just wanting to kind of not necessarily work themselves to the bone, but also to take them to care of themselves from a more physical standpoint as well. And I think we're all in a very fortunate situation where we can provide that for people. And you just got to know. And I think there's a lot of like, I don't know, journaling or something that needs to be done, because I do feel like a lot of us as yoga teachers, at least as a lot of the people that I have met, there is that we came into this as a second career, or we came into this as something because we're so passionate about it. We didn't necessarily get into this as our career. But for some of us, the more and more we do this, the more and more we can't see ourselves doing anything else. And it's very common to have this mindset. I still have it occasionally of, who am I to do this? Who am I to charge to do this? But then when I see my clients have very successful moments in class, I celebrate that to the nth degree. I just actually had a huge celebration with one of my clients today. And it was them being able to get up and down off the floor with ease. And I think that was so exciting because it is something we have been working on. And it was just such an exciting moment. And I wanted her to feel the excitement behind that. And we are helping people live these greater lifestyles because all we need to know is just a little bit more than what they know in order to be able to do that and to share that with people. And hopefully, through education and continuing to read and study and all sorts of things, we can continue to provide more and more for the people that we work with.
That's amazing. I love that inspiring story. It makes a big difference. I remember working with a woman who she was like, I just want to be able to walk my puppy. Well, her puppy was a Great Dane and it would jump up and she was afraid she was going to get knocked down and not be able to get up while she was walking the dog. So she's like, I always need someone with me when I'm walking the dog. And I was like, she just told me that as part of her story when we were doing one on one yoga. And I was like, let's start there. Let's
Yeah.
start, building up the strength to get up and down off the floor. And if our yoga teachers are listening and they think, wow, like that seems really small, that is huge to someone. Like that is life changing. So I love that you're doing this. Um, I also want to say I love that you brought in the mindset, like journaling. If we're, if that imposter syndrome is coming up, or we're having doubts of if we can do this as a career, it's totally possible. What about scheduling, like the nitty gritty details? How many people maximum do you schedule in one day?
It depends day to day, to be honest with you, because we're very lucky that my husband has flex scheduling. So on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, he goes in really early in the morning so he can be back home in time to get the kids off the bus. So I can't start early morning on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays because I need to drop them off at the bus stop. But I can work a little bit later because I know that he's home to do that for the family. So, typically in a day, I say my maximum day right now would be Mondays. And that's actually a day where I'm here for the majority of the day. And we're looking at about 7 clients. And that feels like borderline too much, to be honest with you. Um, but there's other days where I have 1 client after a class that I teach. So it does all even out. Um, but when I am kind of thinking of, for the most part, I try to see where the session takes us, but I like to have a little bit of a plan in the back of my mind for each of those people. So on those slower days, I do a lot of prep work of, okay, this is what we did last time. Let's have a little bit of a plan, but I'm okay to deviate from the plan if they come in feeling completely differently than they did that first day. In a week, though, I would say I take in about maximum 25 clients. That leaves me with 5 classes. So and that might be one person twice a week. So it's 25 hours tops is what I do. And yeah, and then that gives me the time for the class, but then that also gives me I consider myself a full-time employee. So that also gives me about 10 hours to do any kind of back end stuff, whether it's accounting, writing programs, creating classes, doing social media, all of those things. So kind of 30 hours total of actual teaching, whether between classes and clients, is all I've got to give. And then the rest of the time, that extra 10 hours is used for whatever else needs to be done in the business. And there's a lot.
That's a packed schedule for
Yeah.
someone like who used to do one-on-one. Now I was doing this as a single parent, so I had to be I had to be home when the bus came, but still,
Yeah.
um, that even if you like were just yourself in your house, that's a full schedule for a yoga teacher. So I love
Hmm.
that you've built that up, and um, I also love how you said, you know what, that's pushing the limit of like the 7 maximum because sometimes we have to look at, okay, maybe it's time to raise our rates or like
Hmm.
trim some time on the schedule.
Yeah, and I will say I'm not always max 25.
Right.
I'm not always there. Definitely summers are much slower, which I'm grateful for because it gives me more time to spend with my kids at home. I actually do enjoy my kids being at home. I think they're kind of cool.
Right. You're not like,
And when
get
it's time
out.
for them, it's when it's time for them to go back to school, I'm like, oh, I'm actually kind of like, I just love spending time with them. And, we just do things like go to the beach or, just hang out and stuff. And it's not like I'm one of those parents who's with them all the time, keeping them occupied, but I do like having those moments where we can just hang out and do things together. So I'm really happy with how my schedule tends to be because I will say, like January, my schedule will most likely fill up just based on how it's been in the past. September gets a little busy as well. And then kind of spring slows down a little bit and summer slows down a little bit. And I just make sure that I have like this extra account where I put kind of my overflow into what when I'm in that top amount of people that I am working with. And then that way, when things are slower, I can enjoy my time and not be super stressed about the income coming in. And
So smart. Oh my gosh, that's so smart.
it's hard though, because it's really exciting when you're like, ooh, I just made double this month compared to what I normally make and all the things I could do now. But I've been doing this long enough where I know like there is going to be a slower time. So let's just squirrel this away a little bit.
That's really wise. Very wise. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. If our connected yoga teachers are interested in doing a one-on-one session with you or a yoga class or just checking out what you do, where should they go?
My website is bodymindfitness.ca. And then my Instagram is the same, bodymindfitness.ca. On Facebook, which I'm not super active on, but sometimes there's some crossover with my Instagram stuff, is Body Mind Fitness Canada because CA was taken.
All right, we'll put all of those links in our show notes. I'd also encourage our listeners, if you have questions, Dominique is in our Facebook group. We can link to that. And if you're like, you know what, I have loads of questions, put them like comment on the show notes page, and we'll just invite Dominique back to answer them if we have more. Thank you so much for this, and thank you also for the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's always so much fun to talk with you. I feel like it's not as often anymore, but I always get really excited to chat with you, especially on this platform. It's kind of cool sharing with people some of the things I know, the mistakes I made, and hopefully you don't have to make them when you listen to some of the things I've said.
Thank you so much, Dominique.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominique. Wow, what a lot of great information. I also love that you shared this option of marketing online, a different option than sometimes we think about. Thank you for that. Thank you also to you, dear listeners, connected yoga teachers. I'm so curious to hear what your key takeaway was for this episode. And also, hopefully, one thing from today's interview inspired you, whether it's to book more one-on-one classes, or maybe there was something else that Dominique talked about that really inspired you for your business. I would say put that item on your to-do list if possible, if it's not overwhelming. If you're really swamped with work, one of your to-dos might be like take a breather, take a little break, get outside, go for a walk, and then come back and see what really needs to be done. But if you're at this place where you want to grow your one-on-one bookings, definitely write some notes down. If there was something from today's episode, just choose one thing to do. If you felt like, okay, I need to learn a little bit more and get inspired again, go to the episode with Mary for sure. It's in the show notes. There's a whole list there. And also, once you listen to the one with Mary, maybe you already have, make sure to grab that coupon code that we have to catch a whole hour with Mary where she goes really in detail, even more about running a one-on-one yoga business. Both Dominique and Mary do this full time. They've built this career. Mary talks about how she actually was able to support her entire house with her career while her husband went back to school. These are two people that really know what they're doing, so take note from them for sure. The coupon code to grab that 1 hour call where we go more in depth with Mary inside of our Pelvic Health Professionals membership. The code is connected 2024 and you join over at pelvichealthprofessionals.com. And I'll make sure that we put all of these links in our show notes. So if you're listening on the go and you're like, Shannon, I don't have a pen, I can't Google this, I can't look it up. Don't worry. It's over there at theconnectedyogateacher.com/372, or just go to our website and search private yoga, and you'll come up with this episode and some others. I want to share a review from a member of Pelvic Health Professionals, Jessica. Thank you so much. So Jessica said, "Hi, I just wanted to share that at the end of my prenatal yoga class last night, I had a couple clients ask me if I was a pelvic floor physio because of the information I shared during practice. One of them is even doing her APTA certification, so that's physiotherapy or physical therapy, and she had just learned a bunch of what I was sharing in her previous week's class. So thank you to Shannon Crow and everyone here for such wonderful education and tools. I'm so grateful to be part of this community." Thank you so much, Jessica, for this amazing testimonial to how it feels to show up and teach when you really have some deep-rooted education in pelvic health. And I love that someone showed up and said, "Hey, are you a pelvic floor physio?" We really stay in our lane as yoga teachers, but also we can share information and then refer people to a pelvic floor physio. So it's really cool when we can start to work together as a team and when we have that education to go along with it. So Connected Yoga Teachers, if you want to check this out, head on over to pelvichealthprofessionals.com. And like I said, we have a coupon code for you. It's Connected2024, and that will get you 30 days. That also gets you access to all of our yoga series. So I taught one, Yoga for Pelvic Health. Shelley Prosco teaches a balance flow yoga. Sarah Garden taught yoga for endo. Tyla Arneson taught yoga for cancer. And just recently, we wrapped up a Nourish Your Nervous System with Kathleen Pratt. Also, Connected Yoga Teachers, I want to tell you about the live calls that are happening inside of our Pelvic Health Professional membership. So May the 13th, which is today, if you're listening to this episode the day it comes out, but not to worry, there's a replay. We're learning from Brittany Sharp McCollum about how we can support the pelvis during pregnancy. I'm really excited about this call. It was because of a member question that we chose the topic for this call, and we knew that Brittany Sharp McCollum is the person to ask more about. So we're really excited to learn from Brittany. And then June the 10th, I just confirmed that we're doing a call with Dr. Lisa Folden all about how to make our offerings weight inclusive. So that call is called Weight Inclusive Fitness and Wellness Care. It is super important to me. I hope it is really important to you to make our offerings accessible to all bodies. And also, if we want to be part of a healthcare team, which I definitely have been throughout my life as a yoga teacher, we really need to learn kind of what is missing in that conversation and how to be more weight inclusive. So to check those out, visit pelvichealthprofessionals.com and make sure to use the coupon code CONNECTED2024. Also, every single call that we've ever done since we opened the membership is in there as soon as you join. So you can learn a lot and just dive in and let us know if we're missing a topic or a question that we can help you with. On a personal note, I want to share with you that, it's spring everywhere. I'm enjoying time in the garden and time walking outside and, just watching so much come alive, especially after winter here. And I also wanted to share that I joined a really amazing online Zoom gathering the other day. It was hosted by, you can find them on Instagram under Healers for Justice. I'll link to this in our show notes. And it was specific to Healers for Palestine. And here's what their Instagram description says. A collection of healers, spiritual teachers, coaches, and mental health professionals. May all beings be happy and free. So if that sounds like something you want to join, if you are ever having a day where you're feeling like you're running out of energy, you're feeling like, who is really supporting me right now as I want to support, the liberation and freedom of all people, I highly recommend this group. It really helped me. I was actually hesitant to join the meeting that day. I remember thinking, oh, maybe I should just work. Oh, do I really want to be on a Zoom call? But I'm so glad that I did it. Thank you to Shulamit actually for reminding me about this. Shulamit's been here on the podcast as a guest speaker, and she said maybe you need to find a group to meet with. Maybe that would be helpful this week. And it really did help me to find a few actions that I could take. And I left the meeting feeling really more inspired and more connected. So I'll definitely put that in our show notes. If you're near your phone, just search Healers for Justice on Instagram. Thank you so much to our amazing team over here, Suzanne Crunch and Sinead, for the work that you do here with the podcast to bring it to all of our listeners, and also the work that you do in the world. It means so much to me, and I'm so grateful for the connections that we have. Thank you also to you, dear listener, for taking the time to really soak this up today, and maybe other podcast episodes as well. You make this podcast possible. It's because we were getting questions about how can I teach more one-on-one yoga? How can I turn this into a full-time business? Those two questions really motivated us to put this episode together. So if you have questions, we want to hear from you. And I have a question to close out today's episode. What will you be doing this week to stay connected to yourself, your yoga practice, and to your community so that you can share the yoga that lights you up?